The rescue teams combed through the forest, helicopters scanned from above, and volunteers shouted his name until their voices were hoarse. His parents never stopped hoping, but as each day passed, the whispers began. No one could survive out there alone for this long. The nights were freezing. The forest was merciless. Wild animals roamed in the dark. Hope began to wither. But on the 30th day, everything changed. A rustling in the bushes. A low, cautious growl. And then, a figure stepped out from the trees. A boy. Thin, frail, covered in dirt. His clothes were torn, his face was pale, his lips cracked from thirst. But his eyes, held something no one could understand. Beside him stood a dog. Not just any dog. A stray, unknown to anyone in town, who had never left the boy's side for all those 30 days. This dog had done the impossible. How did a lost child survive in the wild for an entire month? How did an unknown dog find him, protect him, and keep him alive? The truth will shock you, and restore your faith in the power of loyalty. But before we dive into this unbelievable story, if you love incredible real-life stories, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, do you believe dogs have a sixth sense when it comes to protecting people? Now, let's dive into the full story. Even-year-old Liam had always been an adventurous child. He loved running through the fields near his home, chasing butterflies, and pretending he was a great explorer. But no one could have imagined that one innocent adventure would turn into a month-long nightmare. It happened on a quiet afternoon. Liam's mother had been busy in the kitchen, and his father was working in the garage. No one noticed when the little boy wandered toward the forest behind their house. At first, it was fun. The towering trees, the rustling leaves, the distant chirping of birds. It was like stepping into another world. He imagined himself as a brave explorer, pushing deeper and deeper into the unknown. But then, something changed. The sun dipped lower in the sky. The once familiar path disappeared behind him. Every tree looked the same. The deeper he walked, the more lost he became. And then night fell. The temperature dropped fast. The cheerful sounds of birds were replaced by eerie whispers of the wind and the distant howls of unseen creatures. Liam's heart pounded. He shouted for his mom, for his dad, but the forest swallowed his cries. He curled up beneath a tree, shivering, tears rolling down his face. And just when fear threatened to consume him entirely, he heard a rustling sound behind him. At first, he thought it was another wild animal. His body tensed, too afraid to move. But then, through the darkness, he saw it, a pair of glowing amber eyes staring at him. A dog. Not just any dog, a large, muscular, wolf-like creature with thick fur and intense eyes. It stepped forward cautiously, sniffing the air as it studied him. Liam didn't know it yet, but this dog was about to become his only chance at survival. Liam froze. His breath caught in his throat as the enormous dog stepped closer, its amber eyes glowing in the dim moonlight. He had always loved dogs, but this one was different. It wasn't a pet. It looked wild, untamed, like it had lived its whole life in the forest. The boy pressed his back against the tree, his small hands clutching the damp earth beneath him. Was the dog dangerous? Was it hungry? The animal lowered its head and sniffed the air between them. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of growling or baring its teeth, the dog laid down. Right there, just a few feet away, its powerful body stretched out on the cold ground. It wasn't threatening him. It was watching over him. Liam, still trembling, wiped his teary eyes. He was exhausted, scared, and freezing. But the presence of the dog made the crushing loneliness just a little easier to bear. As the hours passed, the boy drifted in and out of sleep, his body curling into itself for warmth. Every time he opened his eyes, the dog was still there, its ears twitching at every distant sound, its gaze never leaving the darkness around them. And then, deep in the night, Liam heard something that made his stomach twist, a low, guttural growl. Not from the dog. From something else. The hairs on Liam's arms stood up. The growl echoed through the trees, deep and menacing. It was followed by the snapping of twigs, the unmistakable sound of something large moving in the shadows. The dog beside him stood up instantly. Its body tensed, muscles coiled like a spring ready to snap. Liam barely dared to breathe as the animal took a step forward, placing itself between him and whatever lurked in the darkness. Then, it happened. A second growl, this time louder. A rustling sound. Movement. Fast. Deliberate. Something was coming. Liam squeezed his eyes shut. He wanted to disappear, to wake up safe in his bed, to hear his mom's voice telling him everything was okay. But he was here. In the forest. Alone. Except, he wasn't alone. The dog let out a snarl so fierce, so deep, that Liam felt it vibrate in his chest. Then, with explosive speed, it lunged forward, disappearing into the darkness. A loud yelp. Then silence. Liam held his breath. Was the dog hurt? Had it run away? His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. But then, soft footsteps. A moment later, the dog emerged again, its massive form stepping back into the moonlight. It was unharmed. Whatever had been out there was gone. And in that moment, Liam realized something. This dog wasn't just watching over him. It was protecting him. The forest was unforgiving. When Liam woke up the next morning, his body ached from the cold, and his stomach twisted painfully with hunger. He had never gone this long without food before. The sun peeked through the trees, but it provided little warmth. He was completely lost, his tiny footprints already erased by the shifting leaves and damp earth. But the dog was still there. It sat a few feet away, watching him with those same deep amber eyes. And then, as if sensing Liam's hunger, it stood up and walked away. Panic surged through the boy. Was it leaving him? His only companion? His only protector? But before he could cry out, the dog stopped and looked back. It was waiting for him. Liam pushed himself up on shaky legs and followed. The dog led him carefully through the dense trees, stepping over tangled roots and avoiding thorny bushes. The boy had no idea where they were going, but something about the dog's confidence made him believe that maybe, just maybe, it knew the way. After what felt like hours, they reached a small stream. Liam almost sobbed with relief. His throat was raw, his lips cracked from thirst. He dropped to his knees and scooped the icy water into his mouth, feeling instant relief as it cooled his burning throat. The dog drank too, lapping up the water beside him. But water wouldn't be enough. He needed food. As if reading his thoughts, the dog suddenly perked up. Its ears twitched, and in one swift motion, it vanished into the underbrush. Liam's heart pounded. Where was it going? Minutes passed. Then, rustling, snapping twigs. The dog returned, carrying something in its mouth. A dead rabbit. Liam froze, his stomach turning. He had never seen anything like this before, never even imagined having to eat something that hadn't come from a store or a plate. But he was starving. His body needed food. The dog dropped the rabbit in front of him. It was an offering. Liam hesitated, staring at the lifeless animal. Could he do this? Could he really eat it? The dog watched him carefully, then, with a sharp movement, it began to eat. Not in a violent way, but slow, precise, tearing off small, manageable pieces. It wasn't just feeding itself. It was showing Liam what to do. The boy swallowed hard. He didn't want to. But deep inside, he knew the truth. If he didn't eat, he wouldn't survive. Hands shaking, he reached forward, mirroring the dog's movements. The first bite was the hardest. But with each painful swallow, he felt his strength slowly returning. By the time night fell, Liam had eaten more than he ever thought he could. His stomach wasn't full, but it was enough. And as he curled up on the ground, the dog settled beside him, its massive body pressing against his for warmth. Liam whispered softly, his voice hoarse. "Good dog." The animal didn't react at first. But then, after a few heartbeats, its tail gave a slow, gentle wag. For the first time in days, Liam allowed himself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't going to die out here. Maybe this dog wasn't just a stray. Maybe it was his guardian. Days blurred into nights. Liam had stopped counting them. Every sunrise felt the same, another day lost in the endless sea of trees, another day of survival. He was exhausted, weak, and covered in dirt and scratches. But he was alive. And that was because of the dog. It had become more than just a companion. It was his teacher, his protector, his only family in the vast wilderness. The dog led him to food, berries that wouldn't make him sick, small animals they could share, even a hidden patch of wild mushrooms. It taught him how to listen to the sounds of the forest, when to move and when to stay still, how to follow the scent of water. At night, it curled up beside him, sharing its warmth. When danger lurked, whether a passing predator or the freezing cold, it was always there, shielding him from harm. But Liam didn't know that far away, beyond the towering trees, the world hadn't forgotten him. His parents were devastated. His disappearance had shattered them. Search parties had scoured the woods for weeks. Helicopters had flown overhead, their loud blades slicing through the sky. But Liam had been too deep in the forest to hear them. Eventually, hope had started to fade. The search teams grew smaller. People stopped believing he was alive. And then, on the 28th day, something changed. Liam was walking along a narrow path the dog had led him to when suddenly, the animal stopped. Its ears perked up. It sniffed the air. Then, it bolted. Wait. Liam's voice was hoarse from days without much speaking. His legs trembled as he tried to run after it. But the dog was faster. It weaved through the trees like a shadow, moving with purpose. It wasn't running away. It was running toward something. Liam forced his aching body to follow, his bare feet scraping against rocks and roots. His vision blurred with exhaustion. And then, he heard it. Voices. Faint at first, then louder. Human voices. His heart slammed against his ribs. The dog burst through the clearing ahead, barking wildly. Not in fear, in urgency. It wasn't warning them away. It was calling them. Liam stumbled forward, his breath ragged. His legs felt like they might give out. And then, through the trees, a man, dressed in dark green, holding a radio. A rescuer. The man froze, eyes widening as he took in the sight of the ragged, thin boy standing before him. Then, into his radio, he shouted two words that sent shockwaves through the search teams. "We found him." Liam swayed on his feet, too weak to cry, too overwhelmed to speak. The dog stepped beside him, standing tall, its fur matted but its eyes sharp, protective. The rescuers rushed forward, wrapping Liam in blankets, giving him water, speaking in rushed, urgent voices. But the boy only had one question. His voice cracked as he looked up at them and asked, "Can he come with me?" Liam barely remembered the moments after he was found. The rescuers carried him out of the forest, their voices blending into a blur of excitement and relief. The cold, the hunger, the exhaustion, it all caught up to him at once. As soon as they reached the rescue base, his body gave in. He collapsed into a deep sleep. When he woke up, he was in a hospital bed. Soft blankets, warm air, the steady beep of machines, it didn't feel real. For a moment, he thought he had dreamed everything. And then he saw them. His parents. Tears streaming down their faces, their hands trembling as they held him, whispered his name over and over. His mother sobbed into his hair. His father gripped his hand like he was afraid to let go. Liam had never seen them like this before. So broken, so desperate. He hadn't realized how much they had suffered, how much they had feared they'd never see him again. And in that moment, he finally understood. He had survived for 30 days in the wilderness. But he hadn't been the only one fighting to hold on. His family had been fighting for him too. But there was one more thing missing. Liam sat up, ignoring the ache in his muscles, the 4 in his arm. His voice was weak, but his words were firm. "Where's the dog?" His parents exchanged glances. Confusion. Uncertainty. "The search team said they didn't find a dog," his father said carefully. Liam's stomach dropped. No, that couldn't be right. The dog had saved him. It had led him to the rescuers. It had been his guardian, his protector. It wouldn't just disappear. He swung his legs over the bed, trying to get up. I have to go back. Liam. His mother's hands were firm on his shoulders, gently pushing him back down. You need to rest. He didn't care. That dog had saved his life. And now, it was out there, alone, just like Liam had been. And then, a noise. A bark. His head snapped up. At first, he thought he imagined it. But then the hospital door creaked open, and standing there, tail wagging, amber eyes locked onto his, was the dog. Liam's breath caught in his throat. It was thinner than before, its fur still tangled, but it was alive. And the moment it saw him, really saw him, it bolted forward. Liam laughed and sobbed at the same time as the dog jumped onto the bed, pressing its head into his chest. He buried his fingers into its thick fur, gripping tight, as if he was afraid to wake up and find out this was all a dream. The room was silent. His parents, the doctors, the nurses, everyone watched in stunned amazement. And then his mother whispered. They said, the dog wouldn't leave the forest. It waited, right where they found you. As if it knew you'd come back for it. Liam hugged the dog even tighter. And Liam would never let it go. The world called it a miracle. The news spread fast. Lost boy survives in the wilderness with mysterious stray dog. But to Liam, it was never a mystery. This wasn't just a stray. It was his dog. His family. His savior. And as they walked out of the hospital together, side by side, Liam knew one thing for sure. He had been found. But in the end, it was the dog who had saved them both. And that, my friends, is the incredible story of survival, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond between a boy and a dog. Can you even imagine going through something like this? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us bring you more amazing stories like this. And now, I have a question for you. If you could say one thing to this heroic dog, what would it be? Drop your answers in the comments. Oh, and before you go, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another unbelievable story. And if you're still in the mood for more, check out the next video on your screen right now. You won't want to miss it. See you in the next one.